G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for another Path of Exile Uniques analysis. Today we're going to be taking a look at 4 new uniques from patch 1.1.3. So, jumping straight into it, we have Kaom's Roots Titan Greaves. Expanding on the Kaom's lore, we now have the Kaom's Sign, Kaom's Heart, Kaom's Primacy, and now Kaom's Roots. I'm pretty sure PoE, GGG seem to be going for the full Kaom set, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more in the future. The flavor text for this one is "Don't flinch, it's a waste of good hitting time." And I think this is a pretty nice item to expand the lore of Kaom's as this like really, really tanky, meaty warrior. It's got that same sort of theme to it, He had no need of fancy tricks, so again, this has no sockets. He was a very, tanky behemoth of a man, essentially, like a tree, a hulking tree himself, and Kaom's Roots, the name of that also kind of suits that theme as well, I think. And at the same time, it's got that increased life like the Kaom's Heart does. And then we have Unwavering Stance, so it actually gives you the keystone and cannot be knocked back. So the Kaom's Roots, again, rooting himself to the ground, Unwavering Stance, he doesn't flinch when he gets hit, and can never be knocked back, so always standing his ground. So very thematically cool item, a nice expansion on that lore. However, this item's actual practical applications seem quite minimal in the game. The pretty high level item, level 68, means that they're not really anything that you can take advantage of on lower level characters, obviously. But for higher level characters, pretty limited use. 120 to 150 max life is a pretty large amount, but it's not much larger than you can get on a rare pair of boots. And then you have no resistances and no move speed. Now, the no move speed thing can kind of be counteracted by, maybe Kaom was a leap slammer, and you can be too with these boots, and that's certainly a good, a good thing to have. I think there are some PvP applications for these boots with the cannot be knocked back, which could be pretty nice. And as some people have been saying on the forums, these are the anti-desync boots. No stuns and no knockbacks means, less desync on your leap slammer or something like that. So pretty cool item, but pretty niche applications, I think. There's certainly going to be applications for some specific builds where you don't want to go down and get Unwavering Stance, but you really need it in your build. So for that purpose, I think they're going to have some niche applications, but it's not going to be something that everyone is going to want, that's for sure. But still a pretty cool item. So, moving over to the next one, we have Asphyxia's Wrath, 2-point arrow quiver. The flavor text is a bit poetic. Mists of breath, icing to lips and throat, as the warm ones choke and fall upon the frozen wasteland. Very cool item. Also, the art for it is rad. How rad is that art? I love it. The arrows and the quiver are made of roughly hewn, carved ice. Very, very cool stuff. So this is on the accuracy base quiver, and it comes with quite a few different things. We have increased attack speed and cold resist, both the cold resist thing being very thematic, obviously. Someone who's the master of cold is probably not going to be not be very susceptible to cold damage herself. And then we have extra things like increased chill duration on enemies, 20% physical damage converted to cold, and then 7 to 10% chance to freeze. So this is kind of segment A of this quiver, what it does. And the obvious synergies here are with ice shot builds, or with any sort of bow build using physical to cold conversion, hatred and things like that. So there's some obvious synergies there. Now this is a very low level quiver. Some of the things like increased attack speed, high cold res, are very nice at low levels. So this is certainly going to be a good leveling quiver. And then we have section B of this quiver, which is the 40% reduced radius of curses, and curses on slain enemies are transferred to a nearby enemy. This is something we haven't seen before, and this is probably the most interesting affix on this quiver. This makes this a very nice support quiver, allowing your allies or yourself to not have to curse as often, basically. Once you have a small section of a pack cursed, if you're able to, I think you have to actually kill enemies with this quiver. I haven't been able to confirm that, but the wording and the way that these mechanics usually work is like you will have to convert them. So some sort of Culling Strike build to spread curses throughout the packs could, be very nice. It's going to save your allies time and things like that as well. And you could be using it something like Ice Shot to freeze and slow enemies as well. So very nice stuff. Now the chill duration on enemies on Ice Shot isn't as significant as you would initially think. I just want to point that out because the way that the chilling effect on Ice Shot primarily works is that when they're standing in the ground effect, they have that chill, and then usually when they walk out, it pretty quickly leaves them because it doesn't deal so much actual damage. but it'll at least increase the chill duration of the actual hit when you do hit them, and after you crit them and they freeze, unfreeze, go chilled, that sort of thing. So it's a pretty decent quiver, I think. It's nothing crazy powerful endgame, and it is a low-level item, so it's something that people are going to be able to use to level their eyeshot builds, or just bow builds in general. And I don't think it'll have any PvP applications just looking at this stuff, nothing too crazy, but I can definitely see some people using it for eyeshots, but nothing huge. I think like a really solid endgame rare quiver is going to be more powerful than this. But that's okay, uniques don't always have to be raw power items, but this is certainly very interesting, and the curse transfers and the theming with ice builds is very cool stuff indeed. Next up we have a very cool item. This is one I'm a big fan of. Now, I'm a big fan of whenever they put another bow unique in the game. I feel like there's just not many good ones at the moment. None with really like endgame potential. You've got like Quill Rain for some niche builds, and you've got, you know, some bows down in the low levels that you can use, you know, Silver Branch and things like that. And then at endgame you've got like Lion Eyes and Voltaxic, which are like pretty unattainable for a lot of people. They take a very long time and all the currency to get those items. Doomfletch is a bit of an addition to the game that puts something just before that sort of Lion Eyes and Voltaxic Rift, which I think is good. The game needs more unique bows that have some endgame potential. So the flavor text is toasted or frozen or twitching in the light. I'm not fussy, and neither is death. And that's from Corrales Doomfletch, obviously the owner of this particular bow. Now this is a level 28 bow. Low-level PvP item, indeed. So this has probably been designed for someone who's looking to make it for low-level PvP, given that it is a level 28 item. So it definitely has some applications there. I'm not a PvP expert. If you're into PvP, then you should probably start thinking about this item, maybe how you could use it. But it also has some leveling and endgame potential, I think, as well. So we have 10 to 14% increased attack speed, pretty nice stuff. 1.4 attacks per second is a pretty solid amount. Increased critical strike chance, 30 to 40 on the bow is not too bad. And then 60% increased mana regeneration rate. So this has very nice synergy with bow builds wanting to run something like Eldritch Battery and Arctic Armor, which is not something that's been done too much, I don't think. And it's something I personally would really like to see more of. I love Eldritch Battery, Arctic Armor builds. Like, you guys have seen my EK Scion and stuff like that, and I'd love to see some more bow builds like this, and this sort of bow is definitely going to support it. And then we have the most interesting feature of this bow, gain 110% of bow physical damage as extra element of extra damage of an element. Now, extra damage of an element, this is basically elemental hit, so it should cycle between the 3 different elements. Now, it's 110% of both physical damage, so basically taking the base physical damage of this item, obviously qualityed up to give you a few more, and you get a bit of extra elemental damage. Now, it's not a huge amount, but it's pretty solid. I mean, this is not, you know, this is not 100 to 200 physical damage or anything like that, or 1 to 200 lightning damage, but you're getting something like, you know, 10 to 40 fire damage, cold damage, or lightning damage randomly cycled, just like elemental hit. Now, you could of course use this with elemental hit, it's going to add to that. You could also use it with something like split arrow or any other bow. I think even lightning arrow would work pretty well because of the bouncing and potential for extra shock stacks and extra lightning damage, and the occasional freeze and burn and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff, and you know, it's got the attack speed and the crit strike chance to certainly support those sorts of things. And with elemental scaling, plus using auras like Wrath and Anger, I think you're actually going to be able to get quite a hefty amount of elemental damage, especially in low-level PvP, but I also think enough at endgame through the scaling of those auras alone, plus crit, plus attack speed. I think you'll be able to, this be a pretty nice base item to hold for your elemental bow builds. So I think there are other bows that do similar things, like Quill Rain and stuff like that. But I think this is another item that's slightly different. What separates this item from those is that you get that increased mana regeneration rate as well, so it works really nice with an Eldritch Battery build. So it has some overlap with other items like Quill Rain, but I think it's a very interesting bow, and one I think people will use quite a bit. I've seen that prices have been nothing too exorbitant, but you know, not Lion Eyes or not Voltaxic level, but something a little bit more attainable. So that's pretty cool to see. I would like to see some more builds using more unique bows. Bring on the unique bows, I say. So now we have the coolest item for this week, Hyaon's Fury. Now I think I'm saying that right. Hyaon's Fury? I think so. Legion Sword, one-handed sword, level 62. Hyaon the Red Wolf, howling mad, cloaked in blood, a banner to his legion, a terror to his foes. From Garibaldi, the Chronicler, to the Empire. So this crazy berserker of a legionnaire, I reckon probably dual wielding these, and I'd love to see some dual wielding builds with this. So we have adds 1 to 500 or 1 to 600 lightning damage. Obviously, in terms of pricing, you're going to be able to get one pretty cheaply in that first bracket, especially with low attack speed. It's got 7 to 10% low attack speed. And base attack speed item, it's actually a slower one of the one-handers, a little bit slower than other ones. So not quite as fast, which would make it more powerful if it was a bit faster, but still pretty decent. And if you're paying, if you're going into the 1 to 600 category, then you're going to be paying a little bit more. Like, should probably be exponentially more expensive. But from what I've seen, these are reasonably affordable, actually. And this is where things get really interesting, and where they hit that berserker sort of thing. Hyaon's Fury, this berserker guy. The flavor text and everything comes together really nicely. We have 6% increased damage taken per frenzy charge. This guy cares not for his own safety. And you can get around 10 frenzy charges now through the passive tree and, the bandit reward and through various uniques. And there's a lot of extra synergy items for frenzy charges now, getting very cool in terms of frenzy charge builds. And then we get... So hold on, let's talk about the damage taken per frenzy charge thing. This is kind of like having like 30 to 40% of your health reserved, of your life reserved. So let's say pretending you have an aura, reserving 30 to 40% of your HP. That's effective. That's the effective survivability you'd have with 10 frenzy charges with this item, with your frenzy charges up. So it's a pretty big hit. It is a pretty big hit, and it's certainly going to be more of a popular item in softcore than in hardcore. But I think it is still possible to use this on a hardcore character and be pretty safe through stacking other mitigation types, or through stacking insane amounts of life as well to sort of counteract that. Also, focusing on expending your frenzy charges as you build them up as quickly as possible, or expending them in an emergency. I saw someone suggest having cast when damage taken discharge, so if you do take a lot of damage, it'll discharge your frenzy charges, deal damage out, and protect yourself. Now that's not going to help so much against reflect, but it will help for some other situations. And this item will certainly have some reflect issues. But let's cover some of the other bits here. 12% increased lightning damage per frenzy charges. Now, as I said, you can get up to 10 frenzy charges. 120% increased lightning damage is a huge amount. Pretty high base lightning damage, and you can obviously also use added lightning skills, and also wrath for increased lightning damage. So huge amounts of lightning damage. I can actually see some synergy between dual wielding Mjonir and this together. That would be pretty rad. But have a frenzy charge Mjolnir build with this thing in your offhand. Pretty rad stuff. And then you have 20 plus life gained per kill and frenzy charge. Now, obviously, up to 10 frenzy charges is a huge amount of life per kill, much more than you'd be getting on life gained per hit and things like that. So that's actually a very nice stat on this item, and it's one of the first times I've seen life gained on kill be really actually something really effective, and is a significant thing for building around on this character. So this is kind of one of the items that I see, and I want to make a build around it. This is definitely a very interesting item. And I like the berserker theming, the inherent drawback and the risk of taking more damage, but it's absurd amounts of damage you can potentially do with this, and a lot of the other synergy between various other frenzy uniques in the game. Very cool sword. So if you guys have any build thoughts on any of these items, or any thoughts on any of these uniques, stuff that I missed, or maybe you're going to make a build with one of these uniques, let me know in the comments below. I'm excited to hear it. So just re-looking over, Kaom's Roots, pretty cool expansion of the lore, but nothing too useful, I don't think. Then we have Asphyxia's Wrath, which has some applications, especially for leveling, but again, nothing too crazy. Doomfletch filling some pretty cool niches, some overlaps with other uniques, but elemental bow builds getting another bow, and another bow that you can potentially use at endgame that's a bit more affordable. Pretty cool stuff. And Hyaon's Fury, which has definitely some very nice synergy with different frenzy uniques, and also is going to create some cool actual Hyaon's Fury builds, basically. But basically, if you want to go full man mode in Path of Exile, dual wield these. If you dual wield these, you will have my respect forever, and especially if you do it in hardcore. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.